preparation of this event, for giving me this opportunity to speak and learn more about India's history and the Constitution itself. Jacob.
Thank you, Ritvik. I would now like to invite Suhavi Kumar she's a student at Campion College.
Good evening, His Excellency, Mr. R. Masakui, the High Commissioner of India to Jamaica, Mrs. Rongsu, respected officers, audience, and my dear friends. My name is Suhavi Kumar. I'm in grade 8, and today I want to talk about the Constitution of India. Today, November 26th, we commemorate the Constitution Day, also known as Samvidhan Divas, which marks the day that the Constitution was ratified. So firstly, you need to know what is a constitution. A constitution is a foundational document. It's a legislative charter by which a government or group derives its authority to act. The history of the Constitution of India. On January 22nd, 1947, the Constitution's Assembly, adopted by Pandit Nehru's Goal Resolution, served an inspiration for the Constitution's drafting throughout all its succeeding stages or steps. It was ratified by the Indian Constituent Assembly on November 26, 1949, with Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, famously known as the father of the Constitution of India, serving as its chairman. It came into force on January 26, 1950. As a result of the Constitution, the Dominion of India became the Republic of India. The philosophy of the Constitution of India. The resolution is faithfully reflected in the preamble to the Constitution, We the People of India. It covers sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. The preamble serves two purposes. It indicates the source from which the Constitution derives its authority, and it also states the objects which the Constitution seeks to establish and promote. These would be justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. The salient features of the Constitution of India. The number one is federalism. Central government, state government, and local government. It basically speaks on the division of powers. Modern and living constitution was created by human knowledge, intelligence, ancestry, and civilizations. That makes it the most appropriate for the nation's social, economic, political, and cultural circumstances. The written constitution, the current version of the constitution, which has undergone about 104 revisions, has 448 articles, which are divided into 25 parts and 12 schedules. This thus making it the longest constitution in history and also known as elephant size. The secular state. This is the union that does not grant any particular faith in the nation to any superior power or position. The welfare state. This is a form of government which the state is tasked with protecting and advancing the material well-being of its residents, obligated to those who cannot afford these services but need to live a proper life as a human being. Preamble. As I stated before, it's a very crucial component of the Constitution. Principled rights. These would include the rights to freedom, religion, equality, exploitation, education, culture, and constitutional remedies. Lastly, a couple other important features would be the minorities, backward classes, elections, supreme judiciary, and the duties and directive principles of both residents and government, respectively. Lastly, I just want to cover one more thing, which are some interesting facts and it took more than 2 years and 11 months to bring everything together, which, as we just said before. And also, while articles provide guidelines and define a rule and legal formulations, schedules would cover the extensive details. For example, Schedule 8, which talks about the 22 official languages, where Hindi is one. And basically, in school, many of us would have learned the schedules, and I know it would have been really hard for everyone to remember them. So a mnemonic is Tiers of Old PM, or Prime Minister. Tiers would stand for territory, emoluments, affirmations, and oaths, Rajya Sabha, and scheduled areas. Off would stand for other scheduled areas, federal provisions. Old would stand for official languages, land reforms, and defection. And lastly, PM would stand for panchayats and municipalities. Thank you everyone for listening to my speech about the Constitution of India. I hope you have a
Congratulations. And I would like to call Ananya Mariela. She's a grade 10 student at Campion College. She's going to present on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar.
Good evening, everybody. I hope everyone is well rested, especially us students and scholars, my fellow peers. It gets tough, but we must carry on. Someone else who had to carry on, regardless of the pressure and oppression placed on him, was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Almost 75 years ago, in the year of 1947, Hamara Desh, Bharat, gained independence. Now, as most of us know, the Indian Constitution, which was the framework for our country, was adopted November 26th on 1949 and later came into effect the following year on January 26th. An integral part in making India's constitution was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. Bhimarao Ramji Ambedkar was an Indian economist, politician, and a social reformer. Born April 14, 1891, Ambedkar was the first Minister of Law and Justice of an independent India. As mentioned beforehand, he was pivotal in the creation of the liberal constitution of India. He was a member of the Constituent Assembly and a chairman of the drafting committee. Coming from a family of Dalits, he earned respect despite what society had set out for him. He was keen to organize various anti-caste movements and strive to eradicate the partial system. In fact, some say that it is his life's work. The Mahad Satyagraha of 1927 was proof of that. A small step to assert the rights of Dalits nationwide. Ambedkar led a group of Dalits from a small village called Mahad to drink from a public water source, which in those days was seen as a scandalous act. He was also a renowned scholar with graduate degrees from Columbia University. As a matter of fact, his biography is currently used as a textbook in that very same university. In addition to that, he was a founder of a type of Buddhism called Navayana, which is the new vehicle or the new way. Ambedkar was the first Indian to pursue economic studies abroad, and he received the honorary title of Baba Sahib, which is a Marathi phrase meaning honored father. He was awarded the Bharat Ratna Award in 1991, an award which recognizes exceptional service to one's country. Dr. Ambedkar campaigned for the rights of women. His teachings strongly criticized how women were degraded in society. He ensured women, like me, were seen equally as important as men. He ensured women received the convenience of education, and his open-mindedness unlocked floodgates of opportunities for a common Indian woman. He once stated, and I quote, "The progress of a community is not measured by anything else. I measure the progress of a community by the degree of progress which a woman has achieved." In the 1800s, women had no rights. In the 1900s, we had to fight for our rights. If you ask any husband right now, they'll tell you one thing: women, they're always right. All jokes aside, Dr. Ambedkar and his teachings have, in intent, started a chain reaction of events to unfold. And Bharat Desh, Hamara Bharat Desh, it would not have been the same. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
That was a very good speech, Ananya. Thank you so much. I would now like to invite Siri Padmanu Nusum to give a speech on Constitution of India.
Good evening to the respected High Commissioner, my respected elders and all. Today I will be presenting on Indian Constitution. As you all know, a constitution is a rule book for a state that sets out the fundamental principles by which the state is governed. The Constitution of India is the supreme law and is the world's longest constitution. At its commencement, it had 395 articles in 22 parts and 8 schedules, and it consisted of 145,000 words. And after several constitutional amendments, the current updated Constitution of India consists of the preamble and 448 articles divided into 25 sections with 12 schedules and 5 appendices. So when was the Constitution of India formed? Though India became a free nation on August 15, 1947, the Constitution of India was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on the 26th of November, 1949, and it came into force on the 26th of January, 1950. And from being a dominion of the British, India declared itself as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republican state. Hence, the 26th of November is celebrated as Constitution Day, and the 26th of January is celebrated as the Republic Day of India. So, who actually drafted the Constitution of India? The Constitution of India is known as a bag of borrowings, since it incorporates laws from the constitutions of numerous other countries, including the United States, Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, France, and others. On the 29th of August, 1947, a drafting committee of 6 members was appointed, with Baba Saheb Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar as its chairman. Dr. Ambedkar was the then law minister. He introduced the final draft of the Constitution in the Constituent Assembly, having studied the constitutions of about 60 different countries. Ambedkar was considered a wise constitutional expert, and the Indian nation is grateful for him having achieved this task in a manner which is undoubtedly commendable. Therefore, Dr. Ambedkar is recognized as the father of the Indian Constitution. So who wrote the Constitution of India? Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada was the calligrapher of the Indian Constitution. The original Constitution was handwritten by him in a flowing italic style, and it was beautified and decorated by artists from Shantiniketan, including Nandalal Bose and Biohar Ram Manohar Sinha. In order for the Constitution to be in action, you have to legally sign it. So who were the first people to actually sign the Constitution? Our Constitution was originally written in 2 languages, Hindi and English. The Constitution was signed by India's first president, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, first Prime Minister, Sri Jawaharlal Nehru, and each member of the Constituent Assembly twice, once in English and once in Hindi. The motto and national slogan of the Indian Constitution is Satyameva Jayate, which means truth always wins. The 4 main ideas enshrined in the preamble, which is the backbone and spirit of our Constitution, are justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, which are also represented by the 4 lions on our national symbol of India. Thank you.
Very good job, Siri. And I believe she came all the way from Mandeville to participate in the symposium. Thank you so much. I would now like to invite Bhagavati Ediga to speak on Dr. Ambedkar.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the Honorable High Commissioner, Mr. Masakul. Today I will be talking about the notable and inspirational Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. Now, we know Ambedkar has contributed significantly to the Indian Constitution, but I will leave that for my fellow friends to talk about. Today I want to mainly focus on the social aspect of his life, a truly bitter and heart-wrenching childhood. The Ambedkar we knew today as a former Indian jurist, political leader, economist, and social reformer was not something that came about so easily. Ambedkar, hailed from a poor family belonging to the lowest caste known as the untouchables or Dalits. Every other caste deemed the untouchables as pollutants to society. They were forbidden from using certain metals for ornaments. They were forbidden from wearing specific clothing. They were forbidden from eating certain type of food. They were forced to dwell in the dirty parts of their villages. And they could only rear certain domestic animals. Even access to public services such as going to the police or going to school and more was simply a dream for the untouchables. Ambedkar grew up in the Konkan area of Maharashtra with such horrible treatment, all due to his caste that he came from, which were the Mahars. There was one instance where Ambedkar was drinking the normal clean water that we all drink right now. But once he was discovered, he was beaten black and blue. Another such incident which happened in his childhood was when he went to the barber to get a haircut. But instead of the barber cutting his hair, the barber replied with a very harsh comment saying, "I'd rather cut a buffalo's hair than cut your hair." In the end, Ambedkar's sister had to cut his hair for him. He could not even get a simple haircut. Many more events similar to that has occurred, but even throughout all that humiliation and degradation, Ambedkar has found his strand of hope. Ambedkar had a teacher who, though rarely attended the classes, always treated him as any other student. He even had a soft spot for Ambedkar. He would share parts of his food with Ambedkar, unlike other teachers who would not even touch the books of the untouchable students. Now, what is even more amusing is that this teacher is a Brahmin, the most superior caste in India. Even despite being a part of the highest caste, this teacher did not discriminate anyone due to their caste, and as a result, left a permanent mark on Ambedkar. Do you all want to know the teacher's name? It was none other than Ambedkar. This teacher was such a grand miracle to him that he changed his surname to Ambedkar. Otherwise, it was previously Ambevadekar, which derived from his native village's name, Ambavade. This was due to the fact that Maharashtrian surnames usually derived from names of their ancestral villages. Due to the extensive disgrace he experienced all his life, Ambedkar had to come to the conclusion of converting to Buddhism. His final verdict on Hinduism was that it had a bad effect on the ethics of Hindus, and it killed the public spirit and destroyed a sense of public charity. He stated that the spirit of Hinduism was destroyed all due to the caste system, thus the reason for converting to Buddhism, a path supposedly with social equality, peace, and liberty. Courageously fought the prejudice of society, Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, who has become a revolutionary icon for India and an inspiration to the youth. Someone who was once an untouchable, where everyone looked at him as more inferior than a small insect on the ground. He was finally achieved a doctorate in economics. He wrote a book on the prejudice of the caste system called Annihilation of Caste, and he was awarded India's highest civilian honor, the Bharat Ratna, in 1991. This is the influential life of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Thank you all for listening.
Very good, Bhagavati. Good job. Now I would like to call our very own Shan Romsung. High Commissioner didn't spare him also. He made sure that Shan participate today. Thank you, Shan.
Good evening, respected elders, High Commissioner, and my peers of this community. I stand here not as High Commissioner's son, but as Indians like the rest of you. And I'm also speaking on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And of course, my peers have said so much about him. What left is there to say, really? So I'll get straight to it. When people discuss the man who is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, they always restrict him to a leader of the Dalits, a leader of those tyrannized by the caste system of India. Another alias that he falls under, that many people know him by, is the chief architect of the Indian Constitution. While he indeed is what I mentioned him, this is not the full picture. The whole truth of the person Dr. Ambedkar was is more than that. He is a figure that is scrutinized and idolized to this very day, and at the to this very day, and at the same time, he is a man who is not fully understood and realized by the masses. Not just the 1.4 billion Indians on this planet, but the 8 billion people of this world. Dr. Ambedkar is a genius. Look at me. Now I too am confining him like I said others were. The Messiah of the downtrodden. He was not a doctrinal Marxist or a socialist. In fact, he evolved his own brand of socialism, in which not only the economic aspects, but also the social aspects of the community are emphasized. He is an economist by way of tutelage and school, a jurist, and the first law minister of India. These are all angles of the person Dr. Ambedkar was, and some people might not fathom or be familiar with. A man unafraid of the truth. He spoke out against the caste system, knowing that no social reform would take place in a society based on inequality. Scrutinizing how the government was inept to tackling problems like democracy, when they can't even solve the issue of how there is no land, their forests had been denuded, and their rainfall is short. A man who would look from the perspective of the lower strata up, instead of looking up from the higher strata down. I measure the progress of a community by the degree of progress which the women have achieved. Of course, someone said this before, which was... But anyways, Ambedkar saw women as a victim of the oppressive, caste-based and rigid hierarchical social system. As a son, I deeply respect my mother, who is the backbone of my ideals. So are the many women of India, who are the backbones of one of the greatest nations in the world. One name that I had not mentioned before is one of the names of Dr. Ambedkar that I respect him for the most. This name is the champion of women's rights. He discussed a number of problems of India women and sought for solutions in the Bombay Legislative Council, in the Viceroy Assembly, and also in the Parliament. Baba Saheb always believed in equality. As a Dalit, his vision of social reform and reclamation of human personality was a universal idea. Throughout his lifetime, he used a plethora of methods and strategies to create a society based on the ideas of equality, liberty, and fraternity. Like the 90% of undiscovered ocean, the world over is only scratching the surface of where he stands and his ideologies. His message is well diverse and transnational, even landing here in Jamaica, where in May of this year, our former president, Pranab Mukherjee, inaugurated a road named after him. In the end, no matter how we interpret him, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar to be, no matter how many people denigrate him, no matter how many people support him, we all know one thing: he is an Indian first and an Indian last. Thank you.
Very well done, Sean. And now I would like to invite Atishay Mansingh. I know he wasn't keeping well, but still, despite all that, he came here today. Thank you, Atishay.
Honorable High Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm going to speak about the importance of Constitution, and as well as Dominic, I'm going to see the impact on Jamaica. So the fact that has always stuck with me the most when I think about India is that it is the oldest surviving civilization in history. For a new country at the time to have the confidence to realize that self-governance meant having laws and structures relevant to its own people and culture, and that it could not be transposed. This is eye-opening to how forward-thinking India truly has been. As an Indian who was born and raised in Jamaica my entire life, it is hard not to compare how different my Jamaica would be had it had the confidence to truly be independent. What do I mean by this? Dr. Ambedkar headed a committee which was set up to represent all sectors of the Indian society. This included 30 members of the oppressed classes, Anglo-Indian communities, Parsis, and etc. Nobody was left out. This committee discussed and disposed 2,473 amendments out of 7,635 table proposals. 3 years later came the longest written constitution in the world, which is the supreme law of India, hence the birth of Republic of India. Now that word republic, that strikes a nerve within me whenever I hear it, because a labeled third world country in the 1940s was able to brush off the brutal impacts of mental slavery by the colonizers through maintenance of its culture and a sense of identity by billions of people, not just the committee headed by Dr. Ambedkar. My own Jamaica, 60 years later, still is impacted heavily by mental slavery. The famous lyrics of our own Bob Marley, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, none but ourselves can free our mind," has unfortunately waited in vain, as we still wait to be a republic 60 years after independence, and have the confidence to have the laws and structures relevant to our own people, just like a country that was said to have no intellectual people with no self-discipline to self-rule and work out its own problems did on January 26, 1950. Thank you.
Thank you all students. Hats off to all your efforts, hard work, and for taking the time and doing all the research and learning about our Indian Constitution. Now I would like to invite High Commissioner and Mrs. High Commissioner to give the certificates to all the students who participated today. I'll call all your names one by one. First, Ananya Mariela. Okay, can all come together. Ananya Mariela, Ritvik Gogineni, Mohita Chindipalli, Bhagavati Ediga, Sean Rangsang, Suhavi Kumar, Siri Nusum, Rohit Chandani, Atisha Iman Singh, and Dominic Ramsey.
And we'll take one photograph together.
Rohit Chandani.
Very good, well done, very good.
Which?
Come sit. Yeah, very good. Come, just take one photo. Yeah, you come. Come. Right. Come. Ladies, this side also come. Yeah.